Okay, so looking at the Brisbane Broncos, and in 5 rounds into this NRL season, yes, it has been disrupted by the pandemic and it is going to be a shortened season, but we're looking at the Brisbane Broncos. Yes, they've won 2 games this season, they've lost 3, and in 2 of those defeats, it has been a capitulation and throwing away a winning position and then not scoring in the second half. And if you look at both those games, the possession stats and the defence stats are absolutely shocking for Brisbane. I think they were averaging, 37% over the last 2 games. You look at that defeat to the Sydney Roosters, 59-0. It's a record defeat. Who would have thought that with the Brisbane Broncos team? And this follows on the back of last season with Parramatta in the finals, where they lost a record game against Parramatta as well. Things aren't going great at the Broncos right now. And there's several reasons for this. One, firstly, defence. If you're going to be playing a lot of the match without the ball, your defence has got to be solid, and it's the worst defence in the league at this point statistically. Yes, there are still the rest of round 5 games to play, and once we finish round 5, then you could say it could be the Dragons, it could be the Gold Coast Titans, it could be someone else having a defence worse than the Broncos. But right now, with all the games played up to this point, the Broncos have the worst defence as I'm recording this video. 59-0 against the Roosters. Some of the attempts at tackling, an 11-year-old could do better in an under 11s game for technique. There was some really weak tackle attempts. Anthony Milford, I don't know what he's doing. Is he better at fullback? Is he better in the halves? But what he's doing, it's not working. Darius Boyd, he's moved from fullback to the centres as a key defensive channel. It's a bit concerning. Corey Oates has moved from the wing to the forward pack. So Anthony Seibold's, moving things around, and I think that's causing some confusion. The possession stats, 37% average in the last 2 games. That's not going to win you any matches if your defence is a sieve and you're conceding 200 points up to this point. Now, yes, other teams have games to play to finish out round 5, and the Dragons are also equally struggling right now and struggling to score. So we could say at the end of round 5, the Dragons have the worst defence. But right now, the Brisbane Broncos are in real trouble. They're also lacking leaders. The players I have just mentioned are some of the leaders. Oates, Boyd, Milford. And they're not leading. There is not a lot of shouting at players, where with the players angry with a player not putting effort in. There's a lack of organisation. And you look at the defence where they line up, and there's defensive mismatches all over the place. There's missed tackles all over the place. Whoever is in charge of the defence coordination in training, something's happened between the first 2 rounds and the last 3 rounds. Because obviously during that lockdown phase, whatever momentum Brisbane had, and they had a little bit, they were starting to look better than last season, it's gone. And that game against Manly, they were playing better, they responded after the humiliation against the Roosters, and then they threw it away. At half time, they were leading by 10 points, and then they just didn't play in the second half at all. And the territory, as well as the possession, tells you all you need to know, because you can win a game with less possession. It's where you play the game. And they weren't in the Manly half. You look where they were playing the game, it was in their half. The heads dropped. As soon as Manly started scoring, the Brisbane heads dropped. Even in the first half, they capitulated to a certain extent. They kept kicking to Coates, and it became, well, we'll read that. We'll eat this up all day, and it became predictable. This is another problem. They're not mixing things up in attack. They are being very predictable and one-dimensional against Manly, and against the Roosters. It was just they gave up. Once he got to double figures, they gave up. It turned into a cricket store. That is the problem. Anthony Seibold's under a lot of pressure. Will he see out the season? That's another question that the Brisbane hierarchy and the board will have to decide. Final issue, recruitment. Ben Teo as their latest signing. Yes, he's an experienced rugby league hand. He's played in the NRL. He's also a pretty decent rugby union player as well, having seen him play for England and the Lions. There's one problem. He hasn't played in any form of rugby league for 6 years, and he's 33. And he got limited minutes against Manly, and that is a problem. Yes, the forward pack is lacking experience because Corbin Sims is moving on. Sam Thaiday has retired, as has Corey Parker. These are 3 big leaders they had in that forward pack. Maguire's moved on to the North Queensland Cowboys. They are lacking leadership and experience in the forwards. It's a very young forward pack, and when things start going wrong, their heads drop. And if you haven't got players like Darius Boyd stepping up and just, even if they're not playing well, at least shouting and encouraging and coercing or whatever they got to do to communicate with those young players and keep the morale going. That is a problem in itself. And I can't see how Brisbane can change this. Now, in their next game, or their coming games, they've got to work on territory, for one, and increasing the amount of possession they have. Because these are two areas that are killing them. If your defence isn't great, and you know that, you've got to focus on territory, possession. Two things they haven't had in the last two games. In those last two games against Manly and the Roosters, they didn't score in 3 out of the 4 halves they played. They were kept scoreless for 120 minutes. That's something. Out of 160 minutes of play, they were kept scoreless for 120 of them. You cannot hope to win a game if you can't score. It's a cliche. It's true. The Dragons are just as bad, and I can look at the St George Illawarra Dragons in another video, possibly, after they've played their 5th match of the season. And these are two teams that just cannot buy a win. The Dragons really can't buy a win, and the Broncos, while they've got some wins and they are 11th in the table, I can't see them climbing up it because even the Gold Coast Titans have shown that they can throw the ball around and play. And games coming up for Brisbane, they're going to be tough. Doesn't matter who they're playing. There's only the Dragons, I think, are the only team that are right now playing worse than the Broncos. And the table does not lie. The defence stats do not lie. The possession stats, or lack of them, do not lie. This cannot continue. I had a similar video last year about the Broncos as well. I got the whiteboard out, I dissected the numbers, and it was not good reading. That next game, they went on a winning streak for 8 games or something like that. They started winning games. After, I think, round 8, I did a video last year, dissected the Broncos' problems. They turned it around. Can they do the same this time? They showed signs against Manly in the first 20-30 minutes, and then they fell apart. So, leadership's a big issue as well, and you've got to look at your leaders. And Milford, Boyd, and Oates, they're not leading. They're not leading. And it doesn't matter how... The coach is going to be the one who's on the chopping block, but a lot of these players have got to cop the criticism as well. Defensively, Milford's a mess. Can't tackle to save his life. Darius Boyd is definitely the player he was. His legs have gone, but he's still a leader. He's got to be screaming and shouting in that dressing room at half-time in every match. He's got to be screaming and shouting on the pitch, and he just doesn't seem to be doing that. I don't know where the Broncos go from here, but thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.